How does multiple cyanide poisonings and deadly allergenic reactions relate to the local CVS? This and more criminal cases tonight on Case Closed: Crime in the City, where groundbreaking investigation and forensics brings you inside some of today's most infamous crimes. So join us in our investigation. It was the summer of 2013. It had been a hot and humid few months. Murders flooded the streets of New Orleans. People were dropping like flies, and the police were left clueless with case after case being left unsolved. But when one detective was put on the case and began to connect the dots, the police began to get results. There was a total of 8 murders. Some had been due to cyanide poisoning, and the others due to allergenic reactions. New Orleans had a serial killer, and all commonalities were scattered until all roads led to one CVS pharmacy. The first murder occurred on June 12th at 6 p.m. at the Port of New Orleans. Ernest Martinson, an unmarried 45-year-old dock worker, was unloading bags of feed onto a freighter when he fell to the ground. The man had begun to foam from the mouth and exhibited spasmodic movement. He was having a seizure. His dock worker saw him fall, and an ambulance was called and arrived 10 minutes later. But it was too late, and Martinson was declared dead at the scene. When forensics experts performed their autopsy, the diagnosis was death by cyanide poisoning. There were traces of both this poisonous substance and pain medicine in Martinson's bloodstream. The police searched Martinson's house, combing every room, but no trace of cyanide was found. However, one detective recovered an empty bottle of prescription painkillers from Martinson's trash. People around Martinson were consistent in stating that he had shown no signs of depression or any action that could give the police any suspicion that this death was a suicide.
Ernest never showed any signs of depression. Well, at least none that I saw. He wasn't always the friendliest guy, but he was never sad. He enjoyed his job and his pals, and I would have never thought that he would have committed suicide. Well, at least I don't think he committed suicide, but if the police said he did.
With the possibility of this being a suicide out of the picture, the police started looking at Martinson as a homicide victim. The police began investigating his life and the people around him. Martinson's medical records have shown that he had a history of chest pain, which led the police to thinking that the painkillers were a dead end, and therefore abandoning their most valuable lead. The police tried interviewing everyone around Martinson, trying to find any leads, but it was fruitless. The case was left unsolved until weeks later. The mystery depended on June 26th, when a 32-year-old hairstylist named Jessie Steenberg died in her New Orleans home, where she lived by herself. Steenberg hadn't shown up for her salon job for 5 days, and her boss had begun to be suspicious. All of her calls to Steenberg went to voicemail, and eventually her boss called the police. When officers showed up to her house at 9:07 in the afternoon of July 1st, they found Steenberg dead on the floor of her kitchen with a pill bottle found beside her. An autopsy revealed that she had been dead for 5 days, resulting from an allergenic reaction to medicine she had been taking instead of her prescribed painkillers. Steenberg had been in a car accident recently and was taking medicine to ease her injured shoulder from pain. The bottle that had been found next to her body had been labeled that it was filled with oxycodone, Steenberg's prescribed painkillers. But when the pills had been tested, investigators found that the medicine in the bottle is actually different than what was actually labeled. The actual medicine in the bottle had been Glisas Prestab, a medicine of high percentage of sulfur which Steenberg was highly allergic to. The buildup of sulfur in Steenberg's system had eventually killed her. The police simply labeled the crime as a misconception and charged the pharmacy with negligence. This pharmacy had been a local CVS that coincidentally had also prescribed Marteson's medicine. The Steenberg family entered a lawsuit against the corporation CVS Health and successfully sued them for an amount of $500,000. The police have not seen the connection between these two deaths, one an unsolved murder, and another an act of negligence. However, when two more murders had similar circumstances back to back, the police brought both Marteson's and Steenberg's cases back into the light to re-examine them. Case closed. Crimes in the City will return after the break.
Wow, my car's really dirty.
Sounds like you might be interested in a better, faster, and more efficient way to clean and wash your car than a car wash. Introducing BB's Wax and Wash Wipes.
Use the wash wipes to wipe off all the dirt and grime from your car. Then apply the wax wipes for a nice smooth shine. Find our products in a hardware store near you. For questions, call 1-800-WAX-WIPE.
We all know how life can be dangerous sometimes. That's why I founded Dead Horse Inc., the one company that whenever you actually kick the bucket, you will be completely insured. Make sure your family today is insured from car accidents, work accidents, any sort of accident involving another person. Be safe today and join the Dead Horse. Feel free to contact us at any time today with our toll-free number at 1-800-356-DEAD or at our website at deadhorse.com. Feel free to call or email at any time.
On July 3rd, a 39-year-old lawyer, Raj Tupper, died of cyanide poisoning. On July 4th, a 27-year-old Atsuko Axelson died from allergenic reaction to their medicine. While Tupper's body was examined, they found his prescribed medicine in his stomach, but they also found pills were filled with cyanide. Axelson was supposed to be taking prescribed medicine strength painkillers, while instead in the pill that had been replaced with ibuprofen, which Axelson was allergic to. Both of these deaths were traced back to the same CVS location as Marteson and Steenberg. Local police brought in Upton Newport, a detective from Baton Rouge. Newport sent out an order to recall all prescription painkiller bottles that had been given to customers in recent days. Of the bottles that were recalled, 3 of them had cyanide pills mixed in, and 2 had misprescribed pills. Investigators turned to the employees handling the pill themselves. There was Dr. Myron Pascal and her 2 assistants, Nadir Mann and Fabrice Miril. All 3 had been working together at the pharmacy for a long time, and were experienced and well-educated in the medical field. Police found no evidence of cyanide in the faculty or on their person. Police were stumped. The murders were presumed to be caused by an outside person.
It was difficult, and many times it felt like we were running in circles. First we suspected someone at the pharmacy, then someone outside, then again and again back and forth. When we no longer suspected any of the pharmacy workers, I knew we had to take a course of action. So naturally, I set up a perimeter and checked anyone entering the pharmacy for signs of cyanide and medications.
There are 4 more deaths related to the CVS pharmacy. 54-year-old Herville de Chengir, 31-year-old Elie Satir, 40-year-old Marianne Belgenegger, and 20-year-old Wikir Harvenston. Destanagir, Satur, and Harveston all died from cyanide poisoning, and Belgenegger from an allergenic reaction to the sulfur in a replacement prescription. There was 1 more victim of this sinister serial killer. 37-year-old Carol Ferguson had an allergenic reaction to his sleeping pills on July 15th. However, his wife noticed the strange reaction he had to his pills and called an ambulance. The doctors were able to save Ferguson, and he was in a stable condition after a short period in the hospital.
We had been certain that even though the murderer hadn't been caught, that by collecting all the painkillers and making a recall, we would stop the killing spree. But we saw with these recent deaths that that wasn't true. I had been sure that the employees were clean because there was no evidence that pointed to them. But now it's clear the guilty one was an employee because they were the only ones that were left unchecked. I mean, because they kept their tracks clear of cyanide. So if I had bothered to check them, lives may have been saved.
With certainty, the serial killer was one of the employees Newport investigated at the CVS one last time. Now that he was looking at the employees and places that evidence could be hidden, he found traces of cyanide in the garbage bin in the pharmaceutical production room. There were specks of white powder in a bag, which when tested were shown to be sodium cyanide.
When the police called and brought me in, I mean, I was surprised, but at the same time I wasn't, because I was a person who was physically touching the medicine. However, I would never have killed those people. I mean, they seemed like good people. I didn't know them well. I was just given the prescription by the doctor, so there would have been no motive for me to kill them. Besides, if I had killed them, that would not only ruin my career and my reputation, but it would change everything for me and my family, and I would also probably get the death penalty.
Finally, half an empty bottle of cyanide was found in an air duct. This bottle was taken as evidence, and when investigated by detectives, fingerprints were found on the cap and pills themselves. The fingerprints belonged to none other than Travis Merrill.
I remember it like it was yesterday. I was walking the counter and the police came in and arrested Travis. I was shocked and scared to be walking so close to a murder. I mean, Travis was weird, like he would always leave the property during lunch and he always glanced at us sideways, but murder was something I did not expect. I can't possibly think of what the families are going through. I'm glad they caught the man that did it.
Travis Mueller was arrested on July 10th to be examined and questioned by investigators and psychiatrists alike. They had their man, what they couldn't find was his motive. He went to court on August 10th to August 21st. The jury found him guilty and charged him with 8 counts of murder of the first degree, and 1 account of attempted murder of the first degree. He was sentenced to 120 years in prison with no chance of parole. There was, in fact, talk of a death sentence, but instead he was sent to life in solitary confinement in the Orleans Parish Prison. A video was released 1 year later by the state of Louisiana, an interview with Travis Mueller that was used in a court case.
Why did you do it to all those people?
I was tired. I was tired of everyone living their wonderful lives while I was alone. Life wasn't fair to me. I didn't have family or friends that still talked to me. I wanted people to sympathize with me. I wanted people to know what it was like to live alone, to be alone. Death is the loneliest you can be.
And where did you get the cyanide?
You think I'll tell you? I'll give you a hint. I got it off a pharmacist in Baton Rouge. That's it. I honestly find it surprising that you guys couldn't find me sooner. I was right under your noses.
It has been 5 years since these murders devastated the city of New Orleans, and now people in this part of town are just trusting the medicine their doctors prescribe them again.
This has been Case Closed, Crimes in the City. We will return after the break with another crime.
No, you need to put on your seatbelt.
Yes, you're right.
I just want you to be safe.
Snowflake Donuts. Open from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. every single day. For a delicious start to your day, stop by Snowflake Donuts.
It was a chilly April day in Buffalo, New York. A young woman by the name of Rosa Walsh is walking home after a morning out with her boyfriend. But on this Thursday outside her apartment building, Rosa Walsh, only 26 years old, was brutally murdered. On the day of April 18, 2015, Rosa Walsh and her boyfriend, Kyle Sudwick, had just gone back from a date. They were overheard arguing by a nearby neighbor, Madeline Augustine, and a couple minutes later, Augustine heard Rosa scream. She quickly ran outside. Rosa was moaning, and of the multiple stab wounds to her chest and abdomen, the assailant was nowhere to be found. Augustine instantly called 911.
Oh God, my neighbor's just been stabbed.
Ma'am, what is your address?
We're at...
An ambulance is on the way.
Oh God, send police too.
I remember thinking, oh God, what do I do? She was still breathing but barely conscious.
By the time the EMT paramedics got there, Rosa had lost consciousness. They tried desperately to save her, but she died from blood loss before they could get her to the hospital. Jimmy Hampton, a man of 31 from Boise, Idaho, was the detective assigned to the investigation of the murder.
When I got there, I just saw bloody footprints all over the ground, and I saw her on the ground, and I just knew something was going bad. And I saw the girl standing next to her, like helping her throughout this situation, and she was covered in blood. That's something I won't ever forget.
The officers immediately began to look for suspects. They questioned Augustine, who told them about the fight she overheard. Hampton felt like it was something worth looking into.
To me, I feel like Kyle, her boyfriend, had a good reason to hurt Rosa. So I just went ahead and asked the landlord if he had cameras installed, and he did, so I immediately saw that.
Ultimately, the video turned up little evidence, as the scene of the crime was almost completely out of frame. The police had been searching for approximately 20 minutes when one of the officers called up to Hampton. They had found the murder weapon, a military-issue K-bar, was a much-needed break for the detectives. After the knife was found, they immediately tested it for prints. However, it turned out to be clean. All prints had been wiped off. The K-bar was sent off to the lab to be seen if any DNA could be traced from it, or if they could find any other clues. While they waited to hear from the lab, Hampton began to look into his first lead, the lead about Kyle Sudwick, Rosa's boyfriend.
Alright, we went ahead and called Kyle to ask him some questions, and he sounded very heartbroken, kind of shaky, kind of all over the place.
Alright, can you tell me about any issues Rosa had?
Well, Rosa and Madeline, they didn't get along too well. I remember one time, I was going to pick Rosa up, and when I arrived at the lot, they were both arguing. They were arguing that Rosa was playing her music too loud, and they were just screaming at each other.
Can you tell me why you guys were arguing?
Oh, well, we had just finished a movie, and I had confronted her about her drinking problem, and I told her to stop, and she didn't like that, and we kept arguing, and eventually I just left.
Sudwick also told Hampton that Madeline was currently dating a young man who was in the Marines, something Madeline had neglected to reveal.
When he told me about the knife, the K-bar, it's a knife issued by the Marines, and that gave me a really big detail that it might break the case right open.
He decided to talk to Madeline's boyfriend, Charlie Oakley. He was very helpful and answered many of their questions. He told Hampton that he kept this knife on his person all the time, and, as proof, he showed it to them. It was similar to the knife found at the scene of the crime, except for one thing. Charlie's and Madeline's initials were etched into the handle.
I went ahead and asked him if he had a second knife, and he said he didn't. And then I also went ahead and asked him if Madeline and Rosa had any problems. He said no, they generally get along.
Hampton decided it was time to question Madeline's story a bit more thoroughly. They brought her in and asked her about everything that happened that day.
Almost immediately, we started questioning Madeline, but in my heart, I felt like she wasn't really responsible for this. We went ahead and just did it anyways, just to be safe, but it didn't really lead anywhere. But it's kind of frustrating at this point. It feels like this case is just never ending.
Hampton asked Augustine if she could remember anything else, if Rosa had anyone who would do her harm.
Sometimes her fits were so bad, she would just spaz out and lose control, and everyone would get freaked out. So it got so bad to the point that, like, so many people started to move out, and then soon, like, different people started saying there was complaints of smells and weird noises and just this indecent behavior. And then everyone started leaving the apartments because it started going downhill, the property value and everything, and it turned into these, like, slums of where we're living in. It used to be so nice.
Hampton decided it was time to question Aiden Donnell about what happened that April day.
So I went ahead and headed back to the apartment and asked Aiden if he wouldn't mind for me to just ask him questions, and he didn't hesitate to say no. He was acting kind of strange, like he gave me kind of this weird, elusive, kind of holding stuff back vibe. Rosa has been in a lot of trouble for you, huh?
I mean, I feel bad for her that, she died or whatever, but I mean, she hasn't been fun to work with, her drinking problem. And
why didn't you just evict her?
I don't really have any grounds to. I mean, she's annoying, but she pays all her rent up front, so I don't know.
So getting rid of her would have done the trick?
No, I mean she was super annoying and hard to deal with, but I mean, I wouldn't kill her. That ruined my reputation, and I mean, it's really just tragic that it happened.
Donnell told Hampton that he had just gone back to the complex when the police arrived. He said that he had been out with some associates, some guys that he met at a bar, drinking. However, when Hampton asked for the name of these associates, he said that he could not remember. Hampton then asked Donnell for the name of the bar he'd been to.
So he told me he often goes to this bar called Ace of Clubs. So I have a decent relationship with the owner, Henry Snelling. Once we met up, I just showed him a picture of Aiden Delling, and he immediately recognized him. He said he usually comes around the bar showing off his knives, acting like he told me he usually tells people to stay away from him because he's kind of cuckoo with his knives. But yeah, after I heard that, I feel like we're getting somewhere.
Hampton was shocked by this revelation. Hampton also discovered that Donnell had quite the extensive knife collection. He then decided to investigate Donnell further. Donnell had gotten extra money from an unknown source. It appears that he had been getting monthly payments to some up to $3,000.
I realized something was up. I mean, if he's innocent from murder, he's obviously doing something else illegal.
More on this after the break.
We are a British-style pub with Texas flair. Inside the restaurant, you'll find a relaxed environment with 3 flat-screen TVs to catch your favorite teams. Saddle up to our bar and enjoy a variety of craft beers on draft, cans, bottles, wines, and spirits. Step outside to be greeted by a beautiful patio strewn with cats just waiting to be pet. Our menu offers a variety of local handmade favorites and traditional pub fare. This College Street Pub is a family-friendly environment suitable for all kinds of outings, no matter what you bring. So, stop by and give us a visit at our location on North College Street, Waxahachie, Texas.
Can I share?
Yes, you can.
Can I call?
Yes, you can.
Can I buy?
Yes, you can. How much is it?
Only $2.99.
Welcome back to Case Closed: Crimes in the Big City.
After discovering the illegal activity of Aiden Donnell, Jimmy Hampton issued a search warrant, which was granted. On April 20th, despite Donnell's strong protest, officers entered Donnell's house and started searching. They looked at Donnell's knife collection. They found one missing K-bar. Donnell claimed that he didn't remove the knife, and that it was a break-in. Also looking at the security cameras of the Ace of Clubs, revealed that Donnell was never at the pub on April 18th.
Alright, so I went ahead and brought him in for questioning. He was very denying against everything I threw at him. I thought I'd get him with the money payments, but he just kept denying that too. Eventually I got around to asking him about the absence of him at the bars that he usually goes to. As soon as I mentioned that, he broke down and confessed everything, so that was really good. I got the job done.
It seems that Rosa and Walsh had been extremely determined to stay where she was. She had borrowed $400,000 from the computer firm she used to work at. She embezzled roughly half of that money, and when she was found out, she skipped town. She turned to alcoholism and lived in the apartment building to keep her status low. Eventually, however, Donnell found out about her crime and threatened to bring her in to the police. Rosa instantly paid him $10,000 to keep him quiet and to leave her alone. Though she did wait until the last minute to pay her rent, Rosa was threatened monthly unless she gave Donnell the extra money into the rent. One day, Rosa told Donnell that she was tired of hiding and that she's going to turn herself in.
No, I'm done. I'm turning myself in. I can't do this anymore.
No, just give me the money.
No, I'm not hiding anymore. I'm turning myself in.
No, it's not hard. Just give me the
No,
money.
it is hard because I'm not doing this anymore.
Donnell did not want her to go to police, for fear that he might be exposed too. Thus, on April 18th, Donnell waited for Rosa to arrive back home. He waited until Studwick, who started dating Rosa after the embezzlement scheme, and had no idea if her crimes had left. Donnell approached Rosa from behind and grabbed her, stabbing her multiple times. He wiped the blood off his shirt and tossed the knife into a nearby trash can and fled the scene before Augustine could see him. He borrowed a set of clothes from a nearby house of a drinking buddy of his and threw the bloody clothes into the dumpster. Authorities confirmed this when they found the dump on April 23rd. Donnell was convicted of murder in the first degree, along with bribery, also in the first degree, and he was sentenced to 40 years behind bars. He would not give an interview. His role as landlord was given to a new landlord. After fear of the murder cases died down, more people returned to the apartment complex. With Donnell behind bars, and this brief yet dark episode in Buffalo is over. This concludes tonight's episode in Case Closed: Crimes in the City. Thank you for watching.